It was 8 years ago today, the Toronto Maple Leafs won the draft lottery that ultimately gave them the right to select Auston Matthews. Since then, a grand total of just one playoff series victory. And now the Leafs on the brink of elimination once again. And we don't know if Auston Matthews will be playing or not. For more on that story, let's head to TD Garden right now and bring in Mark Masters. Mark, what is the latest on Auston Matthews? We know he skated, but on his own, give us the details.
Yeah, Auston Matthews back on the ice this morning before the team's optional skate here at TD Garden, and he was not out there for long, just a few minutes, did not do much before departing. Did not feel like a great sign, to be honest. You know, great that he's on the ice, but that he could not do a little bit more. Maybe he just wanted to get a feel for things and save the energy for tonight, but it did not look particularly comfortable from what I saw, the little that I saw, and the players in the dressing room afterwards. Yeah, he couldn't. It's hard to get a sense of them either way. They say he's a warrior. You know, Ryan Reeves, he's going to do everything he can to be out there, but they're also talking about how if he doesn't play, guys are going to have to step up. So I don't know if it was the most encouraging morning on the Auston Matthews front, to be completely honest, Gino.
All right, but what about the demeanor in general? You were in that room. You were talking to the guys. You were talking to the guys after their devastating loss in Game 4 where they got booed off the ice after 40 minutes. They look to be completely demoralized after that game. How are they feeling now going into Game 5 tonight?
Yeah, I mean, they're saying all the right things today, but I don't know. Just the sense being in the dressing room, not a ton of energy behind it. Ryan Reeves talked this morning, and he said again, he brought up the idea that Boston blew a 3-1 lead last year, but then he also said this year's a new year. So no one's really even leaning into that kind of storyline. I mean, they've brought it up, they've talked about it, but they also say it's a new year. It's tough. It's tough. They got to find something here, right? Like, it's not going well. Matthews is not looking good to play. They're down 3-1. They're in Boston. Bruins are feeling good, and it just feels like they're searching for it right now, Gino.
Could they possibly find that miracle in Joseph Woll? Here's a guy that before he was hurt on December the 7th, he was the Leafs' #1 goaltender. He was top 10 in the league in save percentage. At that point, Ilya Samsonov was nowhere near the top save percentage goaltenders in the league. He was probably right around number 69 or 70 overall. So Joseph Woll gets the net back, I'm assuming, Mark. Is that what you're hearing? And what do you think? What difference do you think that could make?
Yeah, he wasn't on the ice this morning, so that would suggest he's starting, even though there's been no official confirmation. But all the players talking about Wool like he's starting. He would be on the ice if he wasn't going to play. So he's going to get the start, and potentially maybe they waited a little too late for this, right? The goaltending battle has been slanting towards Boston, I guess with the exception of Game 2, which is the one game Linus Ullmark started in this series, where Ilya Samsonov was one save better than his counterpart, but his save percentage is sub 900, and Jeremy Swayman's is the best in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So you got to try something different, right? You got to try anything to try and switch the momentum in this series. They know Wool was very good last year when he came in and had to play an elimination game in Game 4 in Florida. They're hoping that he can summon a similar response here tonight. And listen, the goaltender is the one position where, he can swing a series. If Joseph Woll can channel the Joseph Woll we saw at the start of the season, where it felt like he was having a moment, felt like he was emerging and grabbing the #1 job before that high ankle sprain happened in December. It has not gone as well for him since he came back from that injury. He did not put up great numbers down the stretch. That's why Ilya Samsonov got the Game 1 start. That's why they stuck with him for so long. But at least there's a glimmer of hope there that Wool can find something here in the city where he played his college hockey with Boston College. Maybe he can find something special and will the Leafs back into this series.
I love what you're saying. Something different, something special. Let me put that back to you. Sheldon Keefe says the problem so far in this series has been goaltending and special teams. So he's made a change in goaltending. Has he made a change in special teams? Mark, have you seen any kind of adjustment? The Leafs' power play has been horrible, 1 for 14. Their PK has been getting devastated by the Boston Bruins. It's one thing for Sheldon Keefe to sit back and say, we got to be better on special teams. But have you seen them trying to make any sort of adjustments through this series?
Well, Sheldon Keefe feels like the penalty kill issues are tied to the goaltending issues. Obviously, Samsonov was nowhere close to stopping that Brad Marchand one-timer on the power play in Game 4. So they're hoping maybe a goaltending change will change their luck on the penalty kill. On the power play, if Matthews is out, we're going to see an adjustment because Max Domi is going to be on that top unit. It's all about getting shots to the net. It's all about simplifying their approach. When things aren't going well, it's about creating chaos at the net, trying to get second, third opportunities to beat a red-hot goaltender. That's what it comes down to. Morgan Rielly, I know Sheldon Keefe mentioned that he thought the effort was fine in Game 4. Morgan Rielly, both the night of Game 4 and again this morning, brought up work ethic as something that has to elevate, and it does feel like Boston is winning a lot of battles, especially in and around the net front areas. That's happened on the special teams as well. The Leafs have got to win those battles. We get those puck retrievals and find those loose pucks if they're available in front of the net and jam one home. That's really maybe where it starts, Gino.
When you sit back, Mark, and you look at the goals for and against in this series, the Bruins are all over the Leafs. They're leading the series 14-7 in terms of goals for. But when you take away special teams goals and the empty netters, Boston's only outscored the Leafs 7-6. Can they take anything from that and say, if we could just stay 5-on-5, we'd be okay with this team?
I suppose, but it just feels like in this series, Boston is looked comfortable. Boston knows what the Boston Bruins know what they have to do to have success. They've got their kind of identity down in this series, and they just want to stick to it. And if they do that, they feel really confident that they're going to get the results. Whereas the Leafs are kind of searching, like they're getting slowed down in the neutral zone. They can't seem to get into the zone and set up offensive zone time, set up a cycle. It's been really one and done a lot of this series. And when you look at it, the only game they won in this building in Game 2, which they've pointed to, they've said we've been a great road team all year. And the one game that we won in this series was in this building in Game 2. Auston Matthews kind of took over. And based on whether he plays tonight or not, he's probably not going to be 100% or anywhere close to it if he plays. And it just seems unlikely you're going to get another one of those Matthews dominant games. You do have other stars. You have William Nylander, who just got into the series, and in theory should be more comfortable, even though he told me he felt he was fine in Game 4 and doesn't really, I asked him if he can grow into this series. He said maybe on the power play, but he felt he was good. Sheldon Keefe feels like he can get better and was adjusting to the series. And then, of course, you have Mitch Marner, who has thrown his gloves on the bench and looked really frustrated. He's got a couple points in the series. He had that nice goal in Game 4 in the third period when the game felt a little bit out of reach. Maybe he can build on that, but those are the guys you're going to have to lean on now. You can't point to 5-on-5 or it's close on 5-on-5. You got to say, we got William Nylander, we got Mitch Marner, two of the greatest players in the world, and maybe they can elevate and find a different level. They might not see Auston Matthews beside them on the bench tonight, and maybe those two guys who are in there at the peak of their powers can be difference makers and are going to be on two separate lines tonight. Maybe they can find a different level and help the Leafs get this series back to Toronto, where they are due to win a home playoff game.
You've seen Mitch Marner from the day he stepped into this league. You've seen him at times underperform. Last game, to your point, when Auston Matthews went down after the second period, Mitch Marner stepped up and he played like he was on fire. He got that pretty goal. But that's not unusual for Marner. When it comes to elimination games, nobody on this current roster has more points than Marner. He's got 2 goals, 8 assists for 10 points in 11 games facing elimination. Is there something that you've seen historically from Mitch Marner that makes you think that he could be the guy to step up and save the Leafs tonight?
Well, I mean, he's a Memorial Cup champion. So if you want to go back to even before his NHL playoff days, he was amazing for the London Knights and helped them win a championship. So you know that that's in there. He's got that in there, and he's been good at times, as you've mentioned. The bottom line is whether it's Marner, Nylander, Matthews, anyone in the core group, they haven't shown it in the past in those big games, in those elimination games for the most part. Obviously, they were able to summon something in that series against the Tampa Bay Lightning last year where, it felt like they had turned a corner. And they won 3 games in Tampa Bay. And they came from behind in games 3 and 4 in Tampa and won, 3 road games in that series in overtime and got it done. And we thought got over the hump and had unlocked something and the pressure would be off. And what we've seen since then is a 2-7 record in playoff games. So You can look at Marner, you can look at Nylander, who is the guy that a lot of people have looked at and said is the most comfortable in these spots, doesn't seem to let the pressure get to him, is the kind of guy who said facing elimination was fun last year. The bottom line is none of these guys can feel great about their reputation in these biggest games while they've been with the Leafs. So until you see it, I can't really point to anything in the past and say that they can lean on that and it's going to be there tonight.
All right, we'll see how this all unfolds. Toronto Maple Leafs at TD Garden in Boston in a situation where it's win or go into another offseason wondering what happened come playoff time. Mark Masters in Boston.